what is going? I had no idea it was. So I was going through, anger and sad about the other family. I had it all. Um, and I was just disappointed because I was really doing good, and I think.
All right, all right. Thomas and Thomas here. Let's go. All right. First question. Let's start with Ryan. Where did the idea come from to you wanting to be on the show?
I think that most guys like they watch a lot of survival shows alone and all those. And they're like, "Oh, that looks sweet. I could do that longer. I could do that." And so I definitely had that attitude. And so I just thought it sounded like you're going to pay me to go into the woods. I'm like, sweet.
Exactly. But Sarah, to you, I guess the question to you and both you and Ryan here is what's the preparation process like? You got a general idea of what the game is entailing here. What are you doing to kind of prepare yourself for this environment? And Sarah, how are you helping with that?
Man, well, we didn't know hardly anything going into this, right? We had some sense that Ryan was going to go into the woods, maybe be pretty alone, and then Sean and I were going to be in HQ, but we didn't know like what challenges were going to look like. We didn't know how we were going to get supplies. We didn't know much of anything. And so there was a lot of debate back and forth between Ryan and I, like, should he gain weight? Should he get physically fit? Like what's the best strategy to have him be prepared? So I think he kind of went somewhere down the middle. But yeah, my role was making sure he had just the stuff to go into the woods and to make sure, we went to Canada and had to stay in a hotel for a couple of days. And before we went on set, and I sent him with 5 pounds of Halloween candy to help him gain weight in the hotel before he went on the show. So, I think he gained like 9 pounds or something sitting in the hotel for a few days, not doing anything. So, but that's about what we did and knew. Though Ryan does have a fun story about trying to be alone in the wilderness, if you want to hear that story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, any chance to talk about pooping your pants, Ryan? Let's get it out there.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I so to prepare, I knew I was going into the woods alone, and so I figured there'd be starving or whatever involved. So I didn't eat for a day leading up to it, and then I went out with my buddy, hiked in somewhere pretty remote. Um, and then we hiked in, and about 20 minutes into getting there, I chop a limb off a tree, and then I cut my arm pretty bad to where you can see the fat hanging out. And so we stitched or butterfly stitched that up, and then camped under a tree for the night. I guess I should say we went out with absolutely nothing, just a ferro rod and a water bottle. Um, and so slept under a tree in the rain that night, and then woke up and I was drinking so much water I just trusted a fart, and had a really sloppy one. And so then I came home the next day.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah, he was like barefoot. He had no pants on. Like, what happened to you? You were only gone for like 24 hours. Like,
Which
you
like
really think you can survive in the woods? You barely made 24 hours, dude. I'm
Sometimes
scared now.
happen. Accidents happen. It's fine.
exactly. Ryan, which is the perfect segue here. Talk to me about the first few days. What was it like kind of adapting to this, I don't know, this new environment for you?
Yeah, I was telling somebody earlier, like people don't appreciate like getting dropped off in a strange place in the woods, and that it's totally dark, like you can see us on camera, but to us, everything's pitch black. So it's a little unnerving just getting dropped off in a helicopter, and then you're there for a little bit, and then it gets black. Like it's an uneasy feeling. So, um, yeah, and that was all right. And then we didn't get water for a while, and that was pretty tough. We got very thirsty. It was very hot when they dropped us off, and there was wasps everywhere, and So, but it was all right. I mean, it's what we came to do. So
It was all right, all things considered, right?
I roll with it.
Sarah, to you, obviously there was a mental aspect of this game inside headquarters, and we'll dive way more deeper into that in a little bit, but it was something that you guys kind of didn't really prepare for, right?
Right. We didn't know, right? We thought we were going to be like, we knew there was going to be challenges of some kind, right? But we thought it was going to be like puzzles or, like some type of like physical challenge. Like we didn't even know what kind of clothes to bring. Like they told us to bring a swimsuit and rubber soled shoes. Like that was the only direction we got. So we had no idea what we were going to be asked to do. We didn't know if we were going to go bungee jumping or if Ryan was going to go kayaking down a river. Like we had no idea what to prepare for. And so I do think it was a bit of a surprise as to how much psychological stuff we were being asked to do. Like we just never in a million years would have thought that there was going to be a near fist fight over hot chocolate or, people crying over a handful of bread. Like that was just, that kind of pushed me and Sean a little bit more over the edge than you might have imagined. Like that takes some of the fun and games out of it and just makes it like psychological. And that was, it wasn't the best time.
For sure. Obviously, Ryan, as you're kind of surviving this terrain, right? You hear these intercoms go off from time to time. You hear about challenges, you hear about these games, but you really don't know what's happening, right? So, what's kind of going through your mind as those announcements come and as you're kind of preparing for these potential drops coming your way?
Uh, you know, I always just take things as they come. So I didn't plan too much. The only thing I planned to do when I was out there is I'd eat a tiny little bit of food, whatever I had before a challenge came. So like, the intercom would come on and they'd say you got a challenge down by the lake in so and so time, and I'd eat a little tiny bit of food to have energy and drink some water, and that's it. And I didn't know what kind of fun they were having at HQ. So
Yeah,
No fun.
speaking of fun, I guess we'll put quote unquote fun here. Sarah, there was this episode really kind of like unpacked a lot, right? Especially on the psychological aspect of that we were talking about, right? So we see like a break of an alliance in this whole strongest to weakest lineup, followed by like the burning of the letter, right? You know what I mean? Take me behind that psychological thing that ultimately led you to pull that plug there.
The burning of the letter was kind of almost a final straw. Just, it was the first time we had been in a position to actually harm somebody else. It felt like kind of up to that point, you're ranking people, everyone has some free choice, everyone has a free opportunity. But now we're like literally burning someone's love letter. And that's hurting the emotions of not only like our friends in HQ, but also potentially could be devastating to someone in the wild who's asking for a letter, wants to hear from their family, and you're completely cutting off that communication. And truly, in that moment, I wasn't that upset about Ryan's letter getting burned. Like, whatever, fine, he's going to be totally cool. But I was more mad about just the situation that they were putting us in and making us do mean things to each other. And not into it. Sean wasn't into it. And we had just kind of agreed that morning, like, hey, if they make us do something that we think is going to hurt someone else, we're out. Sean particularly felt like we were towing a moral line, and the burning of the letter just kind of bumped us over that line to what, he truly didn't feel comfortable continuing.
Yeah, Ryan, to you, talk to me about the extraction, right? This comes obviously as a complete shock to you. You can see the shock on your face. What's going through your mind in that process?
we had a deal. What we had some sick family going into this, and so we kind of knew that. And so I thought something bad happened to somebody else outside of all this, and maybe that was it. But then my head's just spinning. Like, what is going? I had no idea it was. So I was going through anger and sad about the other family. I had it all. Um, and I was just disappointed because I was really doing good, and I think
For
so.
sure. what's it been like kind of watching it back, right? What's it been like watching it back, kind of getting the seeing elements of the show that obviously you being where you were didn't know about, and obviously even for you, Sarah, you're seeing things that you didn't see that go down in the, in the headquarters there. What's that kind of like for you, Ryan? First, to you, what's kind of like watching it back and then seeing both the headquarters element, including you surviving at the same time?
It's weird to watch it back, that's for sure. I have had a thorough debriefing over all this time as to as to what exactly happened, and so to see it back on TV is, exactly as described to me, and I'm like, okay, like I get it, it's fine, I don't care, so whatever, it is what it is, and but it is weird to watch and all that.
Sarah, to you?
You know, I've actually kind of appreciated watching it back. The first episodes like 1, 2, and 3, I was like, man, maybe Sean and I like spiraled too much. We like overplayed it. But watching episode 4 really drove home to me. Number one, like how terrible we look. Like we were not doing good. And it really brought back all of those emotions that we were feeling. And it was like, you know what? We did do the right thing. I've had so much guilt. Like, should I have pushed harder? Should we have just hung in there longer? But really watching it back has really driven home, you know what? I am glad we made the choice that we did. It stinks because I really do think Ryan could have won. Like he was in it to win it. He was dialed in. He was definitely top 3, and he could have won. But at the end of the day, it's just a game. And at some point, it's not worth it. And Sean and I were definitely at the point of saying, you know what, it's not worth it anymore.